Hi everybody! So we have a lot of terms to cover from that video on the history of music from monophony to polyphony. Let's jump right in. The first vocab term I have is monophony. These are types of musical textures that we're going to start with. Monophony. Mono means one. So monophony is when you have a single melodic line. You only have one line in the music, right? We heard that in the Gregorian chants, in the early ones where there's only one voice. The next term I have is homophony. Remember, homo means same. So it's when you have multiple lines moving together and they're not independent from each other. So it's when you have a melody and you have harmonization directly following that melody, or when you have two lines in harmony that are going exactly together. The next term that I have here is polyphony. Polyphony is when you have, think about it, poly means many. So polyphony is when you have many lines of music going in many different directions. And the motion looks a little bit like this. You can go this way for a little bit, you can go like this way for a little bit, or this way for a little bit. And those are types of motion, and we'll talk about that. That's another vocab term we'll talk about later. The next term here I have is organum. You remember hearing him say organum? Organum is just a fancy word for the early recording of polyphony. So those Leonin and Perotin examples that he played in the video, those are examples of early polyphony. And there are lots of different types of early polyphony and different musical mechanisms that are used in polyphony. So the next vocab word that I have is drone. Drone. And a drone is when you have one note that's being held out below or above all the other notes. So you have one note that's just being held by one voice. That's what a drone is. Now I have a type of organum here, parallel organum. And that's when you have parallel motion in a chant. Parallel motion is when the music moves, the two lines are going parallel to each other. That's all that means. And in organum, you can have parallel. And you can have parallel motion in other types of music as well. The next term I have that we mentioned in that video was mixed or oblique. So you can have mixed or oblique motion in music. In organum, he's talking about when the motion in the organum music is mixed or oblique. And that's when the second voice alternates between playing fifths or other intervals and doing the drone. So when it's like a drone, and then sometimes, and, the intervals get wider, and then back to the drone. But that mixed playing, it's called mixed or oblique, because oblique motion describes one line doing this and one line doing this. All right. Now we have free organum, or free motion, which is a mix of all of these different types. So if you have a piece that's in free organum, it'll use a mixture of those techniques. All right. The next term I have here is contrary motion. Contrary motion is when you have two or many lines that are moving in directions that are contrary to each other. So say you have two pieces of music, two lines of music. These are the two notes going along. They're in parallel motion right now. Now they're in contrary motion. One's going up and the other one's going down, or vice versa, like this. And the next vocab word I have here is parallel motion. Parallel motion, again, is when the two lines are moving parallel to each other. All right, the next term is discant and florid organum. That's when you have two or more voices that are singing at different rates. So when you have the drone part, and it's become more than a drone now, it's doing an actual pattern, but it's just a more drawn out than the one that's on the top line. So the top line might be ah, going fast, and the bottom might be ah, and it might actually be the same pattern but stretched out. Sometimes it is, and that is called rhythmic augmentation. And that's another vocab term for you. So we're on discant and florid organum. So that's when we have those different rates going on with the top part and the bottom part. All right, and then we talked about the Notre Dame polyphony. So you have Leonin and Perotin, which are the two most important composers of that era. And they made the Magnus Liber, which is the collection of their works for the church. So I talked about rhythmic augmentation, and it's when you take a rhythmic pattern and you augment it, you stretch it out. So instead of you having bum, ba, 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 say your rhythm is bum, 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 bum. If you're going to augment that, bum, 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 bum. See what I'm saying? You take that same rhythmic pattern and you literally make it last longer, but have the same amount of space in terms of the ratio. Okay, so that's rhythmic augmentation. And rhythmic diminution is exactly the opposite. So when you have a rhythm and you make it smaller, you half it. So you have bum, 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 and you all of a sudden you want to do bum, 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 bum. You're double timing that, or you're shrinking it down to a smaller rhythm, but it's exactly the same in terms of the ratio. So that's rhythmic augmentation and diminution. And those are some vocab terms for you. I can type them out so you can make flashcards. All right.